Measurement of forces. According to the physics of basketball.weebly.com, a force is a quantity which is measured in newtons and occurs when there is an interaction between people or objects. Forces are measured in newtons and are created by a ground reaction force, which is an upward force. When you are stood still, you are at equilibrium because your forces towards the ground and upwards from the ground are equal. Forces are a push or pull which creates a movement, and they are known as a vector because they have a size and also a direction. There are different types of contractions which allow you to create a force to pull something, such as a muscle. For example, an isometric contraction is a muscular contraction which is where a force is produced but without the movement of a muscle, such as when someone performs a plank. Types of forces. There are different types of forces which allow us to create movement. There are four most common ones, which are known as internal forces, external forces, horizontal forces, and lastly vertical forces. An internal force is a type of force which includes the use of gravity. This force can also be magnetic or electrical and also a sporting force. Usually, internal forces occur when one part of something acts upon another. For example, when throwing a ball in basketball, the ball can be released because the force from the person throwing the ball acts upon the ball, causing movement. The next type of force is an external force. External forces are caused by something which is external to the body, and the force is going to act upon this. External forces include forces which are applied or have tension in them. They can also be forces which are caused by friction and air resistance. For example, a frictional force, which is an external force, would allow a basketball player to grip the ball and dribble it down the court. The third type of force is the horizontal force. A horizontal force is equal in size but opposite in direction. This force is balanced, therefore it creates a resultant force of zero. This usually means that a horizontal force moves at a constant speed. Horizontal forces use friction and air resistance. For example, if someone was running up court in basketball, this would be a horizontal force because their belly button straight across from the stomach would act as a line of air resistance which travels past you in the direction of motion. Then, friction would also act upon you as you ran. The points of contact on the floor would be what creates the friction. The last type of force is a vertical force. This type of force is linked to our weight and our reaction. In basketball, we could use a vertical force when jumping. This is because your normal forces, such as gravity with the ground, must be greater than the force of gravity. When these two things become unbalanced because of the difference in weight, we are able to jump and shoot, or block a shot when defending. The 5 effects of forces. Forces can have different effects on an object or a body. There are 5 main effects that forces have on something, these being motion, acceleration, deceleration, direction change, and shape changes. Creates motion. From being at rest or a state of equilibrium, forces allow you to create motion or movement when different factors are applied to something. For example, when a force is applied to someone throwing a ball, the ball will move through the air with motion because of the forces applied from the person against the object. Another example in basketball could be when you jump to receive a pass. When a force is applied to the ground, you are able to jump, which allows you to then go and receive the pass. Acceleration. Forces also allow you to accelerate. When a force is applied to an object, or when it is applied within you, you are able to accelerate. The bigger the force that is applied means the faster you can accelerate. Acceleration is usually either inversely proportional, which is where one value of something increases as the other decreases, or acceleration can occur when a force is proportional. This is where something corresponds against another and increases at the same rate. For example, in basketball, acceleration at a greater force applied to the ball would increase the chance of it going in the hoop because it would have a bigger force behind it, which would increase its speed and therefore its overall power and the distance that it can travel. Deceleration. Deceleration can occur within a game of basketball where you catch a ball and the force that you are applying it slows it down so that it stops when you are holding it. Deceleration occurs when a force such as friction, muscle force, or external forces are laced onto an object. Forces allow deceleration to occur because as the ball travels through the air and then comes into contact with your hands, its overall acceleration, gravitated from the force that someone threw it at, will be outweighed by the force that you are having to apply on it to stop that force and hold the ball with no movement. Change in direction. Forces also allow you to change your direction. When you apply a force, such as when you pass a ball, you are making that object change its direction and travel through the air differently to the way that it may have done before. If a force is unbalanced against another, we call this a resultant force, because the forces upon each other are unequal, making the resultant force zero. When forces are unbalanced like this, the object can begin to move in the direction of the resultant force. This may be when the ball is released, and then it can change speed in the air, still in the direction of the resultant force, until someone catches or receives the ball. Change in shape. The last way that a force can affect an object is that it can cause changes in shape to occur. For example, when someone dribbles a ball along the court in basketball, we could suggest that the shape of the ball would change slightly as it made contact with the floor because of the forces that were being applied to it. A ball would lose its shape each time it made contact with the floor because of the kinetic forces which are being placed on it. When the ball hits the floor from gravity pulling it downwards, any leftover energy or force from that movement goes into deforming the ball so that it appears to look slightly squashed if you were to put slow motion on the movement.